certain irony, though. This is homecoming, the second year of the homecoming, and there's a sports theme, which Detroit is the greatest sports city in the country. There is no doubt about it. So how do you kick off the second year homecoming event that's sports themed, about the best sports city in the country, is you get a nerd from Battle Creek to come be your first speaker. I'll do my best, folks. No, but I am very proud. And I grew up with Tony the Tiger, but I'm a huge fan of all the Detroit sports teams, have been my entire life. And it was actually special for me to have a chance to see Al Kaline. I grew up listening to Al Kaline back in Battle Creek in all those years. And there are so many other stars. I should recognize you, but I apologize. You want to have dinner tonight. There are two other people I'd like to recognize, though. The first one is my partner in this fabulous comeback of the city of Detroit. He's doing an outstanding job. We work well together. We work in partnership. He is running the city. I'm his supportive partner, and that's Mayor Mike Duggan. The other person I'd like to recognize is his predecessor, who actually worked hard and did a lot of great things. We worked well together, and that's Mayor Dave Bing. Now, to put it in perspective, I actually did work in the city of Detroit for 7 years, starting in 1982. And I could give you a lot of different numbers and stats. I'm not going to do that. You're going to be immersed in a lot of information on Detroit and hopefully Michigan over the next few days. There's one Michigan thing I did want to give you as a takeaway, because I think it's a great thing to cite to people when people talk about how's Michigan doing. So in 2010, in December of 2010, our unemployment rate was 11.2%. We ranked 49th in the country. We actually had about 80,000 open jobs, even in that condition back then. We did an analysis. So where are we today? Our unemployment rate's 5.1%. We are 24th in the nation, and we've come up 25 places in the last 4.5 years. To give you an idea of our opportunity, though, I mentioned the 80,000 open jobs. There are over 103,000 open jobs in Michigan today. We've actually got a 20% increase in openings, while our unemployment rate has dropped by more than half. So there's a bright future here, and it's just up to us to do it. And that's what I'm counting on, and that's why I'm excited to be with you. Well, you can applaud to that. That's fine. Actually, there are two pairs of words. I'm not going to do the normal kind of speech. I'm going to share two pairs of words that I hope you'll take as takeaways when you leave, at least in terms of the things I've talked about. The words are leaving and coming is the first pair. And what's that all about? For about 50 years, Detroit was a story of people leaving. People left. Many of the people that have been gracious enough to return today were part of that movement that left the city. The good part is that's an old word now. The new word for Detroit is, first of all, staying, but coming to this wonderful place. And that's something we should be proud of. And you can see it in so many illustrations. It didn't just start. It took a commitment of many wonderful people over the last 2 or 3 decades to do that. And there are wonderful illustrations in this room. The Illich family, Dan Gilbert. John Cotton, the Cotton family with Meridian. Blue Cross Blue Shield. The list goes on, General Motors. Again, so many companies, and again, I apologize if I didn't mention your name, but there are people that made a huge commitment to either stay or come to the city. That was the foundation of the work that Mike and I are now doing. It didn't start with us. We're building on your good hard work. And I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for making that commitment. If you stop and look at it, look at the differences. And I go back to 1982 and remember my time in Detroit when I worked down here basically every day. And it's easy to cite the most common differences. I worked in the Renaissance Center. I had a view out my window. I looked at the Detroit riverfront. It was ugly. It was. It was industrial. It was a mess. It was polluted. Now what happens when you look out the window? Because of good partnership and teamwork with the Riverfront Conservancy and many parties, the Detroit riverfront is beautiful. If you go from Belle Isle to the Rensen, what a wonderful experience. It's almost all done, and will be soon. We need to continue that down towards Fort Wayne. But think about the tremendous difference there. And then you travel throughout the city. And one of the places that comes up that was famous back when I was in my days in Detroit was the Cass Corridor. It was not a place you went to. It's funny, I talk to people today that don't even remember that old term for it. That's how it was known, folks, back in the 80s. Now it's Cass Avenue. And you can go to a Thai restaurant, you can go to a tapas restaurant, you can have a wonderful experience, you can get some great barbecue. Think about the transition and look at Cass and the transformation that's taken place. It's incredible. And then you look at where we were in terms of, there was a downtown and a midtown. And this is something that's in process, but I am absolutely fired up about this one. You'd have downtown and midtown, but in between, it's not something you spent time there. You drove faster when you had that gap. What's going on now? A whole entertainment district. Whole communities being built. M1 rail. All these tremendous things to say it's not about a midtown and a downtown. It's about them together in a seamless fashion. That's something to be truly excited about. So if you look at these illustrations, what a path and a journey that never got much attention, but the foundation it built is we're leveraging it. We're making it special because we're all working together. And that gets to the second word pair I wanted to share with you. And it's the why. I talked about the what, about leaving and coming. This is the why I believe this is happening. For decades, the story, not just of Detroit, but of the state of Michigan. And when I say I'm not talking about the relationship between the two, but too often within any part of the state of Michigan, this kind of language could come up. It was the word versus. And the word pair I want to talk about is versus versus with. Too often, we created our own mess in this state because we spent our time fighting and blaming one another. Whether it was Detroit versus outstate Michigan, whether it was the east side versus the west side, whether it was some subset or another group, we spent way too much resources of wasted, terrible energy, and we did this to ourselves, and we paid a price for that. Because we viewed the world through a lens of versus. The reason it's working today, the reason we're succeeding, is the word with. It's about doing it with one another. It's about a partnership between the governor with the mayor that we can accomplish tremendous things. And if you go back and look at those projects I listed, M1, it was a public-private partnership. The private sector leading, partnering with the city, partnering with the state, partnering with the federal government. If you look at the riverfront, the Conservancy, it was donors coming together to partner again with the nonprofit organizations of this community, of the broader community, with the state, with the federal government on how to do things like that. Our universities are key players in making this happen. If you look at why Midtown's come back so well, we have to give a shout out to Wayne State. They have done tremendous work. Other universities are collaborating. It's a with, folks. Our work is not done. So a couple words of caution I would give you is this is a fragile thing. Too often when I still listen to people, I actually listen for how they describe things. Do they describe things in a versus manner, or do they describe things in a with manner? We still have too many cases of people using the verses. They may not use verses, but if you listen to what they're saying, it's there. And what I would ask you, for those of you that are Michiganders today, and those of you that are great ambassadors now, and I hope forever, that when you hear that, you ask the question to say, shouldn't we be working with one another? Or can't we do this with one another? The other part we need to do is, I talked about tremendous success in the city already. It is absolutely incredible. We can't even keep track of all the new projects coming and the exciting things going on. But let us not forget that we shouldn't leave people behind. So we do need to make a focused effort to remember the hardworking people in the neighborhoods of Detroit. And again, any area, that has more challenges and distress, and we have much work to do with the schools, with other things, with public transportation, that we need to keep the width up. Because if we keep that attitude, we can do anything. We have the world as an opportunity. And that's why I'm excited to see these great, wonderful people that have roots here in some fashion be back here. Because if you're with us, we're only stronger and better. We will have that capability. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to share a few thoughts with you. But I hope when you leave and you go, the governor said 4 words that I hope you remember. Leaving and coming versus with. One thing in my heart and my commitment to you is I'll be with all of you. Thank you so much.